flyer over on Fund My Comic. It's so big, we need a prequel for it. And also, there's the black and white ad over on Okay. All right. Well, nothing's working. All right. Just all right. Must send him the wrong link, but he's got it now.
Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it the gentlemen
I
wish?
sent you another link.
What would they have?
Work. Shadowhawk, try the link that I sent you 7
Is
hours
life
ago
so
above
dear?
the last
Peace
one
so
I just
sweet?
sent you. Same one I sent Paul. That one should work.
Has to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery?
Oh, okay.
Forbid it already.
All right, I'll send you another one. I'll tell you what, I'll put it in the chat. Make it just easy for all. See if that works. Yeah, there we go. All in here. Shadowhawk, you can jump on whichever you want. Well, the one in the chat.
Of course,
yes. Sorry, Paul. Boomer. Boomering it, you know, in each and every day, each and every way.
I understand. I was like, wait a minute. I'm not trying to stream. I'm trying to join a stream.
Yeah, that was weird. Murphy's Law, it never helps to get in a hurry. So how are you doing today? I hope you had a good Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah. We I had some relatives from out of the states come, and my mother came up, and we had just a family Thanksgiving, so it was nice.
It's good to see Acapad in the house. Omer Glitch is in the house. Shadowhawk, of course. Paul, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
I longtime comics fan since probably 1971. My first comic book reading experience.
Wow. You're not older than I am, are you?
I don't know. I'll be 60 my next birthday.
I will be too, but it doesn't roll around till November, so you probably got a few months on me.
Uh, June, I'll turn 60 in June. So,
Okay, so we're
yeah,
about the
I
same
got you.
age.
I got you by 3 months.
And you started all the way in '71. I
Well,
think the
I
very
was,
yeah.
I, it was a Flash comic with Captain Cold.
Okay,
I mean,
I
I can
guess
remember the comic book.
you know the little checkbook size ones or little square ones that you used to get at like when you went to go get a pair of shoes or something like that, little promo comics.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably really the first. So I really don't know what the first comic I got. It's probably one of those promo giveaways that had Bugs Bunny or
Yeah.
Elmer Fudd or
No,
something
this
in it.
was
That I always
this was
enjoyed, but I never thought about collecting comics.
no. Well, this was. I mean, this was allowance money, and you go to the corner grocery store and you buy a candy bar and a pack of trading cards with the little dried bubble gum in them, and a comic book, and off the spinner rack. And so that's how I started. And then I guess around the time I was heading to college, the direct market happened. So comic book stores started actually opening, and you could go in the store and see all these comic books that had existed when you were a kid, when you were younger or before, that you didn't even know about. And but one day I was actually off to college, and I went to I found a comic book shop in the college town I was at, and I went in, and there were the first 3 issues of FemForce were on the wall. And I'm like, wow, this doesn't look like anything I've read before. And so I picked those up, and then I started reading FemForce. And in the, I guess, mid-90s, the internet started happening, and people were building websites. And there were, most people who were making personal websites, they'd pick some topic that, they enjoyed, that was kind of a niche topic. And so I made a FemForce website. And eventually it became the official fan website for FemForce. And I was running their fan club through the website for a while. And I would go to comic book conventions. I'd buy original sketches at shows to post on the website as one of the, in the art gallery of the FemForce website. And met an artist who I really enjoyed, and he knew that I was friendly with, because by that time I'd become friends with the publisher, Bill Black, and said, "Do you, if you wrote a story for him, would he publish it if I drew it?" And I said, "I'll ask him." And when I asked him, he said, "Sure." So I started doing stories with Ed Coots, and we were published in FemForce a number of times. And then Ed said, "Well, you want to do your own book." And so I put out my own books, 3 issues, black and white, through Indie Planet. And that's kind of how I started writing comic book stories and getting stuff published in comic books. But because I was a reader of AC Comics, and they do all the Golden Age reprints, and Bill would have all these informative articles about, like, Irish McCalla, the original TV's original Sheena, and or Western characters, or I got into that kind of stuff.
Tarzan was on TV in the mid '60s.
Well, Irish McCalla was on TV. Sheena was was 50s. But as a kid, I watched the Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies that were made in the 30s. But they always played a Tarzan movie at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning on one channel in my hometown, and then they'd play. There'd be a Western, and then a sci-fi, and then the night would end with chiller theater at 8 o'clock at night. They'd play some monster movie. and creature double feature, and that was kind
Right.
of my TV watching on a Sunday. So I was always into the pulp stuff. Femforce, I liked Good Girl Art, and so that's the kind of stories I end up writing are all kind of pulp adventure stories. Good Girl Art. I was just at the Pulp Adventure Con it was in Pennsylvania, but it was near Trenton, New Jersey, last weekend, and that's the kind of books there were exactly the kind of stuff that I kind of read growing up. I mean, there was a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs and Robert E. Howard and Modesty Blaise books, Peter O'Donnell. So that kind of pulp fiction is really my literature that I like the most to read, and it's kind of what I end up writing. So
Mm-hmm.
I've got
Yeah, 71. I mean, that was 20. That was 20 centers. I mean, I didn't start till 25 cents. I think my first comic magazine that I bought off the stands was maybe 75. So you really got started earlier. I guess you got started reading really early in life.
well, I was an early reader, yeah, and especially
Mm-hmm.
when I was a kid, I was a leisure reader. So that's I'd find a book.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather had a lot of books. They got passed down to my dad, and they'd be sitting on the shelves of our house, and they were some of them I didn't read till I was a little older, but it was like Captain Blood and things, the Three Musketeers, really the things that ended up being made into movies, with Errol Flynn in them. I mean, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But so
He
I
did a lot of
started
that swashbuckling stuff in the 30s.
yeah. So I read a lot of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the comic books, I think I went from Flash was my first favorite character, and then
Flash
I
Gordon?
found no the Flash,
Or
Barry
you
Allen,
mean Barry? Yeah,
Barry
Barry
Allen's
Allen.
Flash. Yeah, that was my first.
Were you a big fan of Infantino's work?
I had no idea who I was looking at. I was, I'm 6 years old. I never
Mm-hmm.
paid any attention to pencilers, inkers, anything. And I guess a few years later, I found Red Sonja, and that was Frank Thorne's artwork, and that's the first time I actually knew who. It's like I was like, oh, I know that name. I'm now following. I'd like that's the guy who does Red Sonja. I actually connected an artist to a character.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't realize until I'd gone on a succession of books, because I guess right before Red Sonja, I had found the Avengers at some point, and then I found Red Sonja. Then I started reading Infinity Incorporated over at DC, and it must have been, I was probably already in my 20s before I realized that Roy Thomas had been writing those books, and I even switched companies when he switched to DC.
Yeah.
I went from being Marvel reading to DC reading because I was following
Roy Thomas was
around.
kind of like Levitz was over in at DC. He brought back the All-Star comic after
Yeah.
20-year hiatus, and he was always into the retro old stuff that they probably read as a child or wanted to see more of, because the Golden Age characters had been defunct for like 20 years. But I've always looked at Levitz and Thomas as pretty much the same, because they always do like All-Star Squadron, All-Star Comics, retro type stuff that I always found neat to read. And I've got to apologize to my co-host Shadowhawk. I don't know how Paul made it in here, much less me. I didn't make it in the first couple times. I'm sorry none of those links work for you. It's the same link, and we made it in. So I don't blame you. It's some fault with me, but
I don't know.
we'll catch you
The
again
second
tomorrow.
link, the first link that you sent
Cross your
me,
fingers.
the first link that you sent me stopped after StreamYard.com/. That's all it had. So it didn't have the letters afterwards, the letters and numbers after.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, the specific
I don't know
link
what
to
it
the
is.
stream.
I just grab it up from
So
here, the link we're on, and it's not working. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm glad we're in here. Anyway, we'll carry on. Something with StreamYard probably. I don't know. I don't know what's going on today, to tell you the truth. I did a couple things today. I finished that one up.
oh wow.
That's TM. And don't usually put some color on stuff, but I've got some new markers that I'm kind of using to, try out. And I did a geo earlier today. And I don't know how true these colors are coming through, because on some of it seems like
Greens
magentas.
and blues.
I don't think there's a lot
I'm
of
getting a
magenta
lot
in
of
there,
greens
though,
and blues. I
but
barely see any magenta, but greens and blues I'm seeing.
yeah. There's one magenta that I used on, this one here, and it comes out purple for some reason on my camera.
Yeah, it definitely
I've had
comes
that
out
happen
purple.
with comic books before, but yeah, I like the black and red combo too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange how the streams kind of fiddle with the colors when they in showing color.
Yeah. That's
I can see, it's you're saying magenta. I'm like, no, it is purple. It looks purple to me. So
yeah, it is purple on the screen, and I've noticed that with comics as well, that it'll take some of the magentas and make it purple on my, where it just looks purple. But I've been doing, a little bit, interjecting a little bit more color into, and trying out the marker set and whatnot. And I've done some borders, before and things like that, but very sparingly on the color. There's a new character I'm trying to develop, Western character, for the midnight thing. A couple different versions of him. He, here's my midnight character. Here's drawn by first Western character. There's your good girl. You'll like this. Right
it's
now,
a little
you can
pixel.
get,
It's a little blurry and
back to
pixelated
drawn
for
in.
some reason.
Is it? I may have to.
Yeah, your camera's. I mean, I don't
leave it
know
up
on
there for a minute.
I don't know on the regular screen how it's looking. Because I'm looking at you through StreamYard, and things are a little blurry. Your whole stream is a little blurry. So
Okay.
yeah, okay, I can see that.
See, that looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
So
got a
she's going to be a
revolver.
fun character to be. I'm going to combine a comic and do a comic short story and a pulp. It'll be primarily a pulp, written pulp stories. If you back the drawn interior, you can be a permanent character in the, and if you want killed off, I'll kill your character off. But you get a whole chapter, probably 2 stories developed too, that include your character. It's Midnight and the Roustabouts is the title of the pulp. And she's kind of gets these different characters and together as kind of a loose knit team, to kind of take on things, I've got some plot scenarios and dialogue and terminology and things and just visual elements that I want to see. You know, noted. I've been doing a lot of writing lately, Paul. How
Oh.
about yourself?
Um, some writing. I've got a superheroine project that's 2/3 written, but I've already got art for the first third of it. I'm getting ready to, um, as soon as he's completely done, because he's pretty much finished the first third. I'm gonna get it to the letterer. The colorist has finished the first third. I've got probably 2/3 of it, a little under 2/3 of it inked already. But I haven't even written the last third of the book, so. But it'll be 90 something pages. So I probably have about 50 pages that are inked, and yeah, this is actually a reprint of a story that I ran in 8-page increments in my Va-Va-Va-Voom issues. But this is got colors added, and I had a professional letterer actually ink the pages. And it's on sale at Indie Planet. This is my pulp detective, Jen Delora, Red Delora. And yeah, it's 24 pages. It's available on Indie Planet. 46 and gone. You can just go to Indie Planet and put 46, put 46 in. It's on right now. It's on the new releases page when you get to the Indie Planet. Yeah, there's kind of time traveling, and that's got like it starts off as a '60s kind of TV detective almost. I mean, it's not TV, but it's a '60s. It's what you would imagine a '60s detective show would have been like. But then she ends up in a time travel machine. She goes back to. Ends up in a pirate galleon in the middle of a battle between a Spanish pirate and somebody, and then she moves from there and she's sent to the present, and she ends up back in Manhattan. So, but yeah, it's got magic.
The write up is. Yeah, the write-up says in the early 1960s, when a young woman asked private detective Jerry Logan to help finding her missing sister, he sends his secretary Jen in undercover to see what they can dig up on the last person the sister was going to meet. But the operation quickly goes awry, and the imperiled Jen ends up on a time-traveling adventure before ending up in the present. 24-page count, like you said. Jen Delora, the deaf secretary of a past his prime 1960s PI, goes undercover for one of his cases and ends up traveling through time, ultimately ending in the present, where she takes up the mantle of her former boss and goes to work solving cases, all while trying to adjust to the different culture and sensibilities of the modern age. So that's fun. That's kind of a fun concept, to be kind of dealing with the not only your case perils and if you're investigating someone, depending on if it's just like you're cheating on your wife, that's not going to be dangerous most of the time. But if it's you're investigating the mob or something, it might get a little perilous. But she's got to deal with. Well, what's this? Where's the telephones on? Where's the parking meters? They're, what is this? Can I borrow a phone? And they hand it to you, a cell phone. Well, what is this? You don't even know.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yep. Yeah. No,
Homer says that sounds fun for sure.
Yeah, it was a fun little story. It started off. I just wanted to write a pulp noir detective story set in the '60s. But Ed Cooch, the artist, wanted to draw pirate ships. So I had to I had to
Yeah.
adjust my story to get a pirate ship into it somehow.
Right.
So then the time
I
travel
noticed
element
that you
came in.
followed Gorby over.
Oh
I
yeah,
noticed you followed Gorby over on X, and I started following him as well.
yeah. Now Gorby's, he
Uh,
did a pinup for Tantalizing Adventures.
Sierra.
One of the pinups in Tantalizing Adventures is a Gorby pinup. But yeah,
Well, I've got some Gorby originals in there. I think I've shown them to you
yeah,
before.
yeah.
And when I bought them from Bill Black off of his eBay site, I didn't even know who Gorby was. Who,
Oh, he for
some of the artists
look
that he's like, well,
in
I've
the
got this, or I've got that, or he would put it up.
yeah in the I'm gonna say late '90s. Gorby was like on top of his game. I mean, he just was. I felt like he was a really good girl artist. He never got recognized necessarily,
Yeah.
but he was top notch.
Well,
And
he wasn't
you know,
recognized by me, but I guess I wasn't reading in the same circles,
yeah, he
and
did
he just kind of
Femforce.
flew under my
He
radar.
just the issues of Femforce he drew, particularly from like issue 90 to like 109. I mean, he did a lot more Femforce than that, but I'm just saying those were like the peak period for that book.
Yeah.
Just distinctive facial expressions, dynamic, a little cartoony, but man, he rocked. I mean, he had really innovative panel
I will
layouts.
get at least a couple of examples tomorrow, Omer, and show you the Gorby stuff. Today, I can't do it, but it's right in there. I could go get it, but I'm not going to do that right now. Or I could do a search, but I want to kind of get us in the mood for 60s here. This is Apex Comics. Apex Comics.
I
Paul.
do. Yeah, I see this.
This
Fembat is
is
on
this is
Fund My
his
Comic.
Fund My Comic, and he's got his new trailer up, and we'll attempt. We will attempt the impossible, and that's to play this damn trailer. Everything's running so slow. There we go. I've waited for that darn cat to come up. This is going to be slide master of quality. I think Mr. Good Stuff for the trailer. And Pedro did the animation. '60s go-go dancer bitten by a vampire. And the wheels in the sky keep on turning. Bullet tatas, Paul. Bullet tatas.
Kind of reminds me of, for a while there, Valkyrie from Marvel had that kind of black top with spherical,
Yeah.
whatever those are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If she breastfed, she would knock you across the room, I think.
You'll put an eye out.
Yeah, put an eye out. Yeah. But I'm glad to see Brent finally got the trailer up there. I think I don't know, that was probably the lowest. It's not in HD, not on this channel. Uh, that was probably horrendous to try and view. Like, yeah, Rex needs to update to Windows 10. Yes, indeed. See one call the producer, Paul, pull up some Corby. Wow. Okay. So doubling down on the, we want to see some Corby.
Can I
I don't know what
share
to
a
tell you.
screen? Can I share a
Google.
screen?
Sure.
Can I share
Yeah,
this?
if you've
Can I
got
share
some
my
there
screen?
handy. Well, today I'm thinking it's iffy at best, but sure. How's the weather there? It's been cold here, not that bad the last couple of days. It was kind of cold, windy the other day, but no snow, barely any frost.
Okay, I should be sharing. Am I sharing?
It's okay. I've just had to wait till it came up. Are you sharing entire screen,
No, it's just in my.
or
I
did
got
you
a.
want to?
I have a graphics program, so it should be sharing my Mozilla my screen. I don't know. Is it not? Is there a
No, it's
pinup showing?
no, it's you and me showing in it, and I can't bring it up,
Okay, hang
and
on.
I can't dismiss it, or I will kick it
Okay, wait a minute. Let me figure
from the
out how to do
studio.
this
I
then.
don't know. Maybe that's bad. Well, I don't want to kick you by accident.
No, let me figure it out then. Let's see.
No, Omer, I'm waiting on your payment to go through, and then I will send it out. You know,
Okay.
it takes 2 or 3 days for payment to kind of hit. So as soon as that hits, I'll send it out. It's ready to go, brother. Uh, Bullet Girl was kind of like that too. I don't know, but she had a cone on her head.
Huh. I don't know. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to figure out how to go about it. It says
Well,
share
one thing is
screen.
I could go over to X and just, if Homer's just got to see some Gorby, then
Screen
uh,
sharing's easiest.
I just started following him, and I didn't even know he was on there until I went on your X account, and I noticed that you had retweeted some things that Gorby did. Uh,
How are we doing now? Is that
in the
it?
future, we've got Roland Mann coming on with his rider, and tomorrow we'll have on Godfoe, just to get that announcement out of the way. Let's see.
Is that it there? Is
I'm
the
looking
pinup
on
showing now?
Well, let me get on the right screen to see. Yes. Well, it's still
That
not letting me bring it up, Paul. Oh, maybe I was hitting the wrong thing. There we go. But it wasn't showing a while ago. There we go.
Yeah,
So how is
that's the
this
pin.
colored, Paul?
Well, this is a painting. Gorby painted this.
Okay.
This is a pinup
Okay,
in.
Corby.
Yeah, Gorby painted this for Tantalizing Adventures. And so that's my character, Alina.
Which is still up on Indiegogo.
Still up on
Or
Indiegogo
not
and on
Indiegogo,
Fund My.
but
It's
Fund
on
My
Fund My
Comic.
Comic too. It's Fund My Comic. I sent a link, so there's a link to the Fund My
Okay.
Comic page in the private chat. But yeah, this is one of the pinups in the book, and this is a Gorby painting. But of course, he also has.
Are you who's the artist on that?
This is Gorby.
Who
He
drew it?
did.
Oh,
Gorby.
Gorby did
This
it.
is
Did
all.
all
This
of
is
it.
all Gorby.
Okay, Gorby did it all. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This is all Gorby. Especially since it's painted. Now, when most of the Femforce stuff, he did some painted covers for them, And anybody who wants, just look for like in the cover gallery. If you go to FemForce covers, probably anything between about 70 something and
There you go, Homer. There's
109.
Gorby's Twitter. You'll see all the Gorby you want over there on X.
Yeah, but he was inked mostly by Heike on the interiors. But when there's a painted cover, anywhere between like I said, 70 something to 100 and something, it's an all Gorby cover. He just did paintings. He worked a lot in gouache, which is like a watercolor type of thing. But
yeah,
yeah. So that's a Gorby. This is actually the in progress cover for my superheroine, the first issue of my superheroine book. Which
oh wow, I like her look.
Yeah. Yeah, the stuff in black and white, I'm actually going to have like in color, like tonal colors.
Yeah.
But the other stuff I wanted to just leave as this kind of
sort of a torture cover, a bondage cover, right? Got a ball gag in her mouth.
There's a little bit of, hey, you got to have peril in these things. People got to overcome adversity.
Yeah. What is her what is her? Is she a like Batman, or does she have superpowers?
She's a gizmo. She developed these bracelets.
Oh, okay.
That use electromagnetism and can create a force field around her. And the nature of the force field, her punches hit harder. She blows at her are less severe. She can jump a little higher, run a little faster, things like that. Land, and it cushions the landing. But it's mainly because of the. She's just a normal person who trains. She does some taekwondo. She lifts weights. It's the gizmos that are actually. It's the gizmos.
I had a friend that was back in college that was a master in taekwondo. He could, put his foot right in your face, no problem. Is that a noose around that one girl's neck as well?
A noose. You mean over here?
That line.
The line art has been colored yet?
Around her neck.
No, it's So he's holding her up by the straps of her costume. He's got the straps of her costume hanging from the
hook.
Hanging from the hook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see that now. Now that I blow it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So
she's showing a lot of skin, right? A lot of leg, a lot of.
Yeah, in her, she is actually a college professor. She's a genius. She's a genius. She finished college early. She's working on her doctoral thesis. She's a associate professor at a university, and but she's an inventor because she did mechanical engineering as her master's, and so that's. I'll stop the screen. That's my in progress book. Is my superheroine. So.
It's looking good. You asked for more Gorby. It may take a second for it. You can't. I mean, I get it as large as you can. You can go down on your screen, Omer, on the bottom right hand, and click in that box that will appear with your cursor, and make it larger. There's only so big that I can make it. You can make it a step bigger by doing that. This is Gorby's Tara. This is off of X. Here's one of his Western characters,
which is
very nice.
This is actually. This is Irish. This is the likenesses of Irish McCalla, who was TV's Sheena. So this is a take on Irish as if she were a cowgirl, jungle girl.
Oh wow. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And she's got her little chimpanzee companion.
Gorby's got
Gorby's
several
Gorby's
things
a
out there.
Gorby's a hoot. He's an absolute hoot. He's um, very creative guy. But yeah, he draws
Yeah.
nice
Little Gort.
good girl art, and
Yeah, I'm and it looks like he's just leveled up. You know, the stuff that I have is like the stuff that he did for Bill Black and AC back in the probably 90s, 80s, 90s. So it's older
yeah.
stuff. He's leveled up since then,
Well, he went to work.
big time.
He went to work for Disney for a while. He was working for Disney for a number of years. Now he's just freelance. I mean, he's older than we are, so he's winding it down, I guess.
Yeah.
But he's, his art skills. I mean, the thing he did for me was only a year and a half old, so he's he's still got it.
Yeah, I mean, Don Perlin was still doing artwork, into his 90s till he passed away
Yeah.
earlier this year. And he did, a cover for one of the crowdfunders, the second to last cover that he did one for Chuck Dixon as well. But
Yeah.
before he died, that was his actual last cover. But, oh, Frieden, one of the few, she passed away, I think earlier this year.
Ramona Fradon, yeah,
She was
yeah,
Ramona Frieden. She,
yeah.
creator of Metamorpho, and
Hmm.
one of the few females in the field, artist, besides Marie Severin and a few others. Uh, she was in her 90s, still doing stuff, still going to conventions, apparently, at least doing drawing and posting every day. So it's amazing. I'm told that she had something on her drawing desk the day she died.
Yeah.
And
Well, and it's
I'm not
a
sure
lot of these.
if I heard the story, she might have even passed away at her drawing desk.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the older artists continued. They were able still to produce artwork. If they lived long enough, and they lived to be 80s, 90s, they were still artists. Some of the Golden Age guys.
The cycle just repeats. If you're not the hot new artist, you can be Nick Cardy at a convention. Of course, I know Nick Cardy's long gone. You could be, an accomplished artist, unless you're a mega big name like Bernie Wrightson or something like that. That kind of transcends. There's, if you're somebody like Luis Dominguez, they did a lot of work, especially in the Bronze Age, 80s and stuff, a lot of the horror type stuff. But that not only, I mean, he did the first Swamp Thing issue cover for Swamp Thing number 11 after Bernie did his 10 issues and got out of it. And then I think it went to Tom Yates, but he did wonderful cover for issue 11 of Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
And
Well,
actually he was one of the first artists I think I saw, in comic book artwork. But again, I didn't put a name with the art. I just knew
right.
what I liked when I saw it.
Well, it's when I was doing a lot of conventions, going to shows to get sketches from people back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was great because, you had Erwin Hassan, you had George Tuska, you had Frank Boley, you had Nick Cardy at
Herb
these
Trimpe.
shows. Yeah, I mean, Dick Ayers. And,
And they might
there was
be
never-
sitting at
there
the
was-
table with
there
one
was
or
never
two,
a lot-
if that many.
there was never a line for their, in
No,
front of their table.
never a line. That's what I was
And
saying.
so I have
It keeps repeating
I have
its.
con sketches from all those people because nobody else was in line. It was easy to go
Mhm.
up and ask for a get them to do me a
You knew
sketch,
who they were and
and
what
I knew
they'd
who they
done and
were.
appreciated the work.
Yeah,
And yeah, hmm
yeah. So, yeah, Nick
yeah.
Cardy did
I
a.
hate to see that though. I saw that in a few of the conventions I went to. They're sitting at a table, just twiddling their thumbs, or they might be working on something, but most of the time they're looking to see if somebody's going to come up to the table. It seems like a waste of time for them and talent.
I had Nick
Uh,
Cardy draw me a Rio Rita drawing, and because when
mm,
he was still Nick Viscardi, he worked on Senorita Rio back in the Golden Age. So he was like,
mm,
nobody's asked me
yeah,
for a drawing of this character in 50 years, So, but that's,
yeah, yeah.
it was, you could make a connection. I had Erwin Hoshin. I actually have a kitten drawing from Erwin Hoshin because he created Catman and Kitten. But,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
The very first comic, they're public domain now. The very first comic that Devil Flyer was on the cover with had Catman and Kitten on it. Blue Beetle, although that you can't use that name, they were calling him the Blue
right.
Scarab, and
Yeah.
War and Man of War was on there.
Yeah.
So I just wild to have your character on a cover with these great golden age, now public domain characters
Absolutely.
that are legends. Blue Beat Blue Beetle was pretty popular back in the day. Uh,
Yeah.
for
Well,
Fawcett and
yeah. I
Catman and
mean,
Kitten had backup story. I believe Joe Kubert's first artwork was in Catman and Kitten. Voltro, I believe, was the
hmm,
character's name. Uh, was in Catman and Kitten.
yeah.
I've got a little ash can sized book that actually shows Joe Kubert's work. He was a teenager when he did
Yeah.
that, about
Well,
14.
a lot of those old Golden Age stories, um, it didn't matter who the publisher was. The same artists collective, because it was the Eisner Iger shop that did the artwork. And they might do
Hmm.
the artwork for this story from this publisher and this other story from that publisher. And then sometimes they take their characters and move them
Yeah,
from one
different
publisher to
contracts.
another. And so, yeah.
Hmm.
So, it's a lot of it was if you worked for the Eisner Iger shop, you ended up doing all these stories for all these comic books. And that's, you break in, when you first start with the shop, they give you some small backup strip to see if you can do the job, and you work your way up.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, so many wonderful characters. I was thinking with my Midnight character, since it's in the 1800s, depending on the time, she could meet Zorro. Zorro is now uh,
That's correct.
public domain.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you just have to make sure that his costume, and you have to you can't just you know steal from the Disney TV show that was so great in the 50s, or the
Well,
look
that's
and everything,
that's
and maybe some
there's
names and things. You gotta be careful.
two things two primary things when you're dealing with public domain. One, you have to start with whatever is the public domain character is, and only what the public domain character is.
Hmm.
So elements that got added later, they're not into the public domain. So you
Yeah.
can't just because the character is in the public domain doesn't mean the character 20 years afterwards, some minor character that was added or some distinctive part that was added to the costume or stories that were written about the character 20 years
Yeah.
later. They're not public domain. It's the characters falling into the public domain.
That's why I think
So-
that retro for a while is going to be big, because things are slowly, like Doc Savage, are going to be hitting public domain,
Yeah.
and it's just going to ramp up and
Yeah.
really get into the sweet spot of entertainment. You know,
Yeah,
right now
so
it's kind of in the 20s up to 1930,
Yeah.
but after the 30s, you're getting into talkies, and when stuff is really starting to take off, you know,
yeah.
as far as
But-
movie wise.
If you start from the
entertainment
original
part.
character and then you have your own ideas that aren't really anything like where that character was taken previously.
I would have
Then-
to consult Wikipedia. I don't even know. I guess I assume that Zorro came out of the literary, somebody wrote
Yeah.
a book called Zorro, or the Mark of Zorro, or something. I know it
Yeah.
goes. I know about 1920 or something like
Yeah.
that in the 20s that Fairbanks Senior played him in
Yeah.
the Mark of
Right.
Zorro, which is one.
And it was adapted from
film.
it was
He was-
adapted from
He
a
was
pulp.
really the first action star.
It was adapted from like a pulp adventure
Yeah,
story.
or pulp book.
Yeah. But
Okay.
that's
Okay.
so you start with
Yeah,
you start with the elements that are in public domain, and then you can take it in whatever direction you want to take it, as long as you're not stealing from what came later that some company still owns, But the second thing you got to remember is just because the character is in public domain doesn't mean the trademark is available. I mean, trademarks have to be in use. But if somebody's got a trademark that's in use, you can't market something else using that same name. So it's one reason why every Shazam book has been Shazam instead of Captain Marvel for the last 40 years, 50 years. Because Captain Marvel
Because Marvel's snapped
owns
up the Captain Marvel.
Captain
name.
Marvel's Captain Marvel has the trademark on Captain Marvel, so DC can't sell a book called Captain Marvel. That's why it's Shazam. But but I mean that's the
Have
that's
you
that's
seen the Captain
that's
Marvel
the
that
other
was
thing.
briefly?
The English
Have
one.
you seen Captain Marvel? The Captain Marvel, the one that was briefly in the '60s, and he would say
The 60s.
split,
That's what I'm thinking of.
and he would come apart. His body.
And he came apart. Yeah.
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 I've seen some of those. Yeah.
Bizarre. Yeah, it was kind of like MLJ characters or something. I don't know if he was associated with them or kind of like the Mighty Crusaders or not, but it was around that time,
I mean, I feel like, it's been many years. I'm pretty sure that Marvel's Captain Marvel was late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah,
when
it
they
was
first
in
put
the
him out.
60s. It was in the
Yeah.
60s. Yeah, it was
But
like
I think it was late 60s. So
about
it was
68, 67.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This the other Captain Marvel was early 60s, and his book had been canceled or whatever. So he wasn't showing up for anybody anymore. So Marvel swoops in and creates a character named Captain Marvel and trademarks it, and now they got the trademark to Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Because DC's Captain Marvel had been out of print, basically. They weren't using the mark in trade. So
But
they
DC by
lost
that
it.
time already owned the old Fawcett character.
They owned yes, but they hadn't put out a book called Captain Marvel.
Right.
Yeah.
They would in the early 70s, the early Bronze Age. Yeah.
Well, and that's, so DC in the mid 60s bought Quality Comics' books.
Yeah.
So they
And
bought out Quality Comics.
And you
Now
got
Quality Comics
Quality
was the
Comics
original.
did Black Hawk,
Well, and that's
did
that.
GI Combat.
Yep. But Quality Comics in the 40s, they printed Phantom Lady. They had Phantom Lady. Phantom Lady
Oh, Phantom
in the
Lady.
40s.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Quality Comics has
Matt Baker artwork, right?
No.
On a lot of those.
1940s, Quality Comics Phantom Lady with the yellow costume and the green gloves. They stopped publishing. Quality stops publishing that Phantom Lady. Eisner and Iger take the character to Fox. Victor Fox.
Oh.
They get a blue costume, the red, Matt Baker art. Phantom Lady becomes retooled it. That's the Phantom Lady everybody remembers from the Golden Age, right? Is the blue and red one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Quality Comics had her as a yellow and green character, but it's the same character. So when DC buys Quality, they think they're getting all quality stuff. But 1941, you had 28 years, and then you had to renew the copyright. And so 69, they had to renew the copyright, and it didn't get renewed for the stuff from 41. They didn't renew the copyrights until like 72.
Yeah.
So all the stuff from, so Thunderbolts, they got renewed. So DC legitimately had the copyright for them. But for all this quality stuff before then, including Phantom Lady, they never had the copyright. So then they start.
Is that Phantom Lady the one with the green and yellow costume? I think you said.
Yep.
Is that the one that they brought back into the All-Star Squadron, where she had like a little wrist bracelet that would
Freedom
fire
Fighters,
shadow or shade?
I think Freedom Fighters. I know she was in Freedom Fighters, but they never had a Phantom Lady book.
And I think they also used her in the All-Star Squadron.
So they never had a Phantom Lady book. They never actually they never bought the copyright from Quality. But now, so they created basically a new version of that character. But it wasn't because they had anything coming from Quality. They essentially just took the character as if they owned her. And then because nobody else was using the character, they then have the copyright to all the new stuff. Because she had technically fallen into public domain. From 68 on, she was in public domain until DC, and they never had a trademark on her until they actually put out a book called Phantom Lady.
Yeah.
Because they weren't using the character as a mark in trade. Mm-hmm. It was Freedom Fighters. Or it was All-Star Squad.
I actually have the production artwork, the approval cover to that issue.
Yeah. So, I mean, they own all the stuff now. But, they didn't really at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were using a public domain character and creating something new. But, yeah. So, for instance, when they told Bill Black he couldn't use Phantom Lady as the name of his character, well, at the time, he absolutely could have. And so he changed the name because he didn't want to fight with DC. But we got the Blue Bulleteer instead, which is it's a better character. I like the character, so.
Yeah, well, now she has kind of a Western bent to her as well, doesn't she?
Well, the Blue Bulleteer is his Night Vale character. He was so Bill did Prozine. You know all this. I mean, your audience might not, but Bill did Prozines in the 60s and 70s, and he had a character that was a sorceress,
right?
That he called Phantom Lady in these Prozines. And then he gets a cease and desist from DC, and he stops using Phantom Lady, and he calls the character Night Vale.
Was he within his rights to use that name though?
At the time, oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you going to do? Fight corporate?
Right.
I mean, it was easier. It was much easier and less expensive to change the name, right?
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
so he changes the name. I think from one thing to another. It ends up being Night Vale. But then he gives Night Vale the backstory of she was originally this Blue Bulleteer character who dressed like the Fox Phantom Lady. So, I don't know if I've ever shown you, but so this is the Blue Bulleteer. That's the Blue Bulleteer character.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
that's a statue, but you can see the blue, the inspiration. You can see the blue costume. You can see the
Oh yeah. Yeah. It looks very much like Phantom Lady.
Even skimpier than what was already a skimpy costume. But
Yeah. I kind of get that from Bill Black. He liked the skimpy as well
yeah, well, so
with
do
his
I.
female
So,
characters.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Got to be tantalizing. Got to be
More
titillating.
of the flesh, the better, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere around here, I've got some probably Blue Bulleteer, like I saw him the other day. Little trading cards that he sent me and signed. I think I've shown you that stuff before. But I'll definitely get out some AC stuff and show it tomorrow. It's been a while since I've shown that stuff.
Yeah. So,
Even some
but
design. I think I've got one design of Catman and Kitten. His character looks more like Jaguar God. The character that was in Fire and Ice. Frank presents Fire and Ice. Ralph Batsky did it. He did a couple redesigns for Catman and Kitten that I have, and it's on like thin vellum or tracing paper. But I really like the designs. They never went with those designs in any story.
I mean, anybody who's interested in
AC, the designs.
Anybody who thinks AC Comics, sounds interesting or wants a look at some of these old characters and how they got reused by AC Comics, if you go to accomics.com and you can either, you can go through their FemForce covers or your Golden Age covers or Golden Age Men of Mystery. They have all their back stock. There's almost a cover for everything they've ever done because they still have them for sale. Sometimes at cover price back whenever the cover was available. Although they have.
Yeah,
I noticed the other day they started to adjust prices. Too. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to. I've looked on eBay, but I've not went on any of their sites or anything. But I've got original.
ACcomics.com has pretty much a good cover gallery of all their stuff, and so if you ever want to see a picture of how they did this character or how they did that character, you can probably find the character in.
Well, I'd forgotten, but the last time you were on, I told you I had a thumbnails to the cover and to the whole story of an issue of FemForce that I bought from Bill.
Yeah.
Forget what issue it was, maybe 50 something, I don't know, but it was neat. It was like Giganta on the cover.
I've got a cover and all the interior pages to a bunch of stories that AC published. Mainly because the artist gave me the interior pages and or sold them to me, and over the years my wife has gifted me occasionally covers of issues I worked on. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I might have to bring bring that, see what issue, who the writer was on that particular issue. It'd be wild if the cover that I'm thinking of had, was actually written by you.
I
The
doubt it.
story.
I mean, I wrote maybe a dozen stories for them, and probably of those,
Yeah. Did you
4 or
you did the
5 I
main
was
stories, or did they have like backup stories?
uh a few of them was the main story. Some of them were backups. Um, I had to cover 119, 128, 132, 139. There's one other one in there somewhere
So kind
that
of
I'm forgetting.
sporadic and seeded throughout the series.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
what issue number are they up to now, Paul? I assume you're still collecting.
204.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
They just hit
204.
40 years old, didn't they?
Femforce, Femforce will itself be 40 years old next year.
Okay. So
First issue is 19. First issue is 85.
85. Okay.
AC Comics started in 82, I think. So they're over 40 years old.
Yeah, but he had the Paragon.
But the
brand
very first
before that.
Femforce Special number 1 was 1984. So it's actually 40 years old. The Femforce Special number 1 was in 19. So that's 40 years of Femforce,
Yeah.
yes. But Femforce Special was first, and
Yeah,
then
yeah. I
Femforce
think
number
that's
1
what-
came second.
I think that's what Bill was saying when he was saying Femforce was 40 years old this year.
Yeah.
In a little YouTube thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He was probably talking about where it began in the special. I bought a lot of those early Femforce issues. When I could see them, find them. They're not AC stuff. Really. The guy, when I think back about it, we had a pretty good local comic book shop. After my comic book shop closed, he kind of came in, and he was actually, would go to Memphis and go to flea markets and get back issues and stuff. So that's where I got to see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Nothing was off the books. He'd get Femforce, Captain Paragon, AC titles, and I would buy those. He had a couple of spinner racks, and in fact, I own those spinner racks now. They're vintage 80s spinner racks. I'm told the one that says "Hey Kids" and has Archie and Superman and a couple other characters on it is kind of rare. Randy Zimmerman said that was kind of a rare one to have. I've got them in storage. I need to clean them up and bring them in here. Squeaky old things. The thing about it is I can't put any boarded and bagged. I had to put in just raw books or something smaller like a digest or something, because that's always irked me, that I couldn't put in something that was boarded and bagged. I had to put them in the raw. That doesn't really protect them,
Yeah, no, but that's how they were. That's
But
how
if you
they
got
were
the
originally
reader-
sold. Did you ever do mail order? Did you ever get like mail
Yeah,
order from
exactly.
DC or Marvel, and it would come in the little brown
Oh
wrapper?
yeah, I mail ordered from Chuck. Yeah, I mail ordered from Chuck Rosansky, Bud Root, all those early.
Yeah,
mail order
I
people
ordered
that
direct
sold
from
comics. I
DC.
thought-
You could mail order direct from DC. I can remember getting those books, and they would just come like in
I
a
did.
brown paper wrapper from DC Comics.
It was
You had to
81
order
or
a certain
82. I
number. You had to
actually-
order a certain number of titles. I think it's like you had to
Yeah.
have at least 5 or something. before
DC
they would
does own
do
the
that
rights
for
to
you.
one of my characters, but it never saw print, and I doubt it ever will. It was for the Dial H for Hero. When you
Oh
submit
wow!
for
Yeah.
Dial H for Hero a character, and Carmen Infantino was doing the interiors mostly on that. But I had some great George Perez, and that was in Adventure Comics. The last Adventure comic was a full size comic before it went to digest for 2 years, and then they canceled it. See, I just don't get that, Paul. That still irks me to today. One of their longest running titles, it was an anthology book redo it like Avengers. You know, they renewed and made the Avengers even more popular than X-Men by putting like Wolverine and characters they knew were popular or they thought would be popular, like Spider Woman, you know, and put a great artist like David Finch on it. It took off like a rocket. Here's Adventure Comics. It's had everybody from the Vigilante to the Spectre, Legion of Superheroes, you know, you name it through the years. It's an anthology. It can be anything, and they cancel at 503 issues.
Yeah.
One of their three big titles, Action Comics, Detective, and Adventure, longest running, still running, and they canceled. I don't, you know, what would have been cool is if after 2 years of being digest size, at least if they would have come back to full size to see if it would have took off. But alas, they never did that till much later, around probably 2009, 7, 8, somewhere in there, you know, and brought back the Legion, of course, which was featured prominently in the 60s in Adventure Comics. But Adventure Comics with the Supergirl backups, you know, in the 60s.
Well, I mean, I'll say when I was a
It
kid,
could have been anything, and they canceled it.
when I was a kid, some of the first Wonder Woman stories I read were Mike Sekowsky's run that had her in the white outfit, where she was basically it was martial arts, you know.
Where Jones was drawing it.
Yeah, but
she's like Kung Fu Fighter, right?
Yeah,
somewhat martial arts.
But then, you know, then they got her back in the Wonder Woman costume, and
right.
I mean, I bought that book for years, but I bought the book for the Huntress backup. Because Huntress that's kind of where they started putting the Huntress. You know, the Helena Wayne Huntress. Because it was an Earth 2, and I really liked the Earth 2 characters more than the Earth 1 characters. I mean, the older, you know, I was an Earth 2 fan. When Crisis happened, I was sad, you know. I mean, it was a great series, but I was, you know, it's like they got rid of my Earth 2, you know.
Yeah. Crisis on Infinite Earth you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like I said before that, I was, you know, I liked
a great series.
Power Girl was an Earth 2 character. The Helena Wayne Huntress was an Earth 2 character. I mean, and they brought them back in, you know, after Crisis they were still there, but, you know, Helena was a different Helena. The relationship, it wasn't, you know, the child of Batman, and I mean, it just, I liked that old Huntress. It took me, you know, I've never liked the new. I like the new one, but I've never liked it as much as I liked the original one. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, I've actually got a Huntress splash page done by Joe Staten. He did a run on Huntress.
Oh yeah,
for a short time. I think.
Well, Joe Staten and.
But yeah, you mentioned the Flash. You know, I used to buy the Flash for the Dr. Fate and the Firestorm backup stories.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times that wasn't, you know, I'd buy books because I liked the backup character that was in the book.
Yeah, or,
you know,
or the
so
artist, you know, on the...
or the, you right, that might be, you just like that art or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I enjoyed the Flash, but if, you know, a Carmen Infantino's early 80s stuff, it doesn't grab me. I mean, I definitely was exposed to it, like I said, you know, I bought the Dial H for Hero, and he was the artist on it. But I love the concept of Dial H for Hero, and that the fandom could submit characters and get their stuff published. You know.
Yeah, for me, the best part of that Wonder Woman book when the Huntress was the backup was
every issue.
You know, besides the Huntress backup, those books were best for their covers. Giordano, Jose Delbo, people like that. The Wonder Woman did have some great covers.
Well, Paul,
but the stories were...
Paul, I'm still going to go on a rant. I mean, you celebrate 500 issues and you cancel it right after that with 503. I know was digest size. I guess it wasn't selling that well, but it's an anthology. It could be anything. Bring it back to normal size and give it a shot, with Batman in it or something, for a little while, see if sales will go up on it. You don't cancel something that's been around for 50, 60 years. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Was one of their oldest running titles, and they canceled it.
They could have easily,
right after the 500th anniversary, they
could have easily put a popular artist on it, use some characters that they
Absolutely.
needed to, that maybe they were underused, or come up with some new characters and run them in there, and
Yeah.
It's got a hot new artist with a new character, and have them be the the face of Adventure Comics, and then run some backups.
I love George Perez. He did a lot of those last. In fact, he did the very last full size Adventure Comics cover, and I would buy it just for his covers. I mean, wow, I'd buy it anyway because I was, if it was Infantino or whoever was, Joe Brown, I can't draw a straight line to save my life. I still would have bought it because I like the concept of, seeing the new characters. It was inspirational to me. I was creating new characters at that time. And I got to see all around the country these kids and sometimes older people submitting characters and getting them published. And you put a top-notch artist like George Perez doing some of the covers. He made those fan-made characters look dope, even though they were pretty wild concepts, some of them,
Yeah. They've gotten to the point where I think they just are like, well, we'll have 12 Batman titles and we'll have 5 Superman titles.
Yeah.
And we'll put out Wonder Woman every month, and there we go. I mean, that's where all our money's going to come from. So.
Well, when Marvel got bought out by Disney, when DC got, when they switch ownership and everything, it's like, yeah, the board of directors, I mean, $1 billion, that's including Scholastic, manga, everything, is nothing to these board members. Nothing. $1 billion for a whole industry. And you break that down even smaller. You brought in how many million? It's off the radar. These people are they don't care. They dissolve companies. Sears and Roebuck, been around 1 million years. Cancel it. JCPenney, it doesn't matter to Sears. It's out of here. They're not looking at that. They're looking at, how can I best put my money to use, and frankly, comics is not a moneymaker, not big time like they want it to be. So it's amazing, really, that Marvel and DC have not, at least the comic book publishing part, has not been dissolved. I'm amazed, actually.
The smaller the company is, the more the comic books have a chance to be a moneymaker for the company. The bigger they are, that same profit doesn't mean anything. So, when DC and Marvel were owned by small businessmen, that small businessman was making a lot of money off of DC and Marvel. But when they go to a company that, that same amount of money just isn't enough to even warrant having the company. And so they just kill it. So, yeah, I'm surprised that the publishing line has stayed around as long as it has, because all they really want is the characters so they can license them and put them on T-shirts and put them. Nobody, as far as they're concerned, nobody's buying the comic books. They want to, maybe characters get popular because of the movies or the TV shows or the cartoons or whatever. That keeps the characters in they don't need new characters. They don't need new stories. It's all about the licensing.
Yeah. I think somebody sold them a bill of goods and says, no, you need these, for movie ideals or whatever, movie development. But,
But then they get
Yeah,
to the
I don't.
movie and they get to the movie and they have an idea that worked in the comic books, and even when they try to like use a storyline from the comic books, they'll change it. It's like, why'd you change it? It worked the way it was.
If they would stick
That
with
was the story.
original
People were,
material,
you know,
people would
I
love it.
mean, keep the original material and make that into a movie. Why would you write a whole new different
Or
storyline?
you know, yeah. I mean, they use these old characters instead of. Why don't we do a new Fantastic Four and create 4 new characters that might have like similar powers, but all new? They'll go, you know, a Black Johnny Storm. Well, that's not the character. Never has been and never should be. You know, Nick Fury. You know, I mean, and some have went from male to female, female to male. You know, whatever.
I mean,
It's
part of
crazy.
it is they are hoping to pull in the fan base that likes the Fantastic Four or whatever. So they kind of
They'll never do it.
sort of have them Fantastic Four, but they're not trying to have them be the Fantastic Four. They want to have them be completely different. But completely different doesn't necessarily guarantee that certain people will
Translate.
show up. You know, if you called
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
you know, the space travelers, and
Yeah.
it was Fantastic Four like characters. Well, now none of the comic book fans are going to be like, oh, you know, I got to go see that movie. But call it Fantastic
and
Four, and they're like,
I
well, let me
mean,
go
you
see this
know,
Fantastic Four movie that's nothing like the Fantastic Four. I mean, they might have the same powers, but they're not, it doesn't really work.
well, you know, the UFOs, the villainous team from the Incredible Hulk, they basically took the Fantastic Four origin and gave them the same origin, you know, and even sort of Fantastic Four like powers, you know, a couple of them at least, you know. Instead of it being Human Torch, you had an X-ray type flying young character, and you had a ironclad that was made out of metal instead of rock, you know. And you had one female character, which was Sue Storm, you know. Instead of turning invisible, she turns invisible into like gases and different elements, you know, and
Yeah.
floats. And Vector, he kind of repelled things, I think, and was kind of the smart guy and the brain of the bunch. So, I mean, it was basically Fantastic Four and evil Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And I had no problem with that. I like the UFOs, you know. That's one reason I created the 43, which was, you know, I needed to create some villains, right? But I don't want to, I want to, because I create more heroes than I do villains. I just do, you know? So I'm like, I need some villains for these guys, you know, and some stories. So I came up with the idea for a Nazi experiment of World War II. And then that way, 43 villains with a variety of powers would have the same origin. So I wouldn't have to tell a different origin for all 43 characters. That's how that came about. You know, I'll give them all the same origin, you know, pretty neat origin, but the same origin nonetheless. That way you don't have to tell so many different origin stories about how, you know, they came about, you know. It was an easy way to get a lot of villains in one fell swoop, you know, in one story.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, it's like,
And
for me, I don't really go see any of these movies or watch these TV shows because, look, if and it won't happen because Bill wouldn't let it happen. But if they were making a Femforce movie and they had Miss Victory with dark hair, 5'2", and flat chested, I don't care. That's not the character. I'm not going to go see the movie. Right. And I'm a huge Femforce fan. but you
Well,
just don't
that
do that.
Fantastic Four that recast Johnny Storm as a black man, and you could say, well, that's racist to say. I don't think so. He's never been a black character, but neither is Nick Fury,
Look, the
except in the
actor,
Ultimate
the
Universe, and they were
actor's
using
popular. The
the black
actor's a good. The actor's
character.
popular. The actor's a good character. You know, a good act. You know,
Right.
he's a good. He's a money maker. You know, so I
Yeah.
understand you're trying to like, but there's certain roles. I mean,
Well, every year, Paul, they have the Turkey Awards, and that movie just got beat out. Everybody was saying that Fantastic Four is going to be the worst movie of the year. It wasn't by a hair. I think the movie Pixel came out that year, and that was the worst movie of the year. But that Fantastic Four was on the short list for the worst movie of the year. A Marvel major studio under Disney. That
thing is,
should never happen.
I
That's
can
not
watch.
good press.
I can watch
It's
movies. I can watch movies that are bad. Okay, that are at least trying
Oh, I can too.
to
B
do
movies,
that are
D-list
trying to do
movies.
the subject matter. You know, I mean, I can watch a bad movie. I mean, and they might be cheesy. They might be stupid. They might be obviously subpar movies. But I can get entertained by them if it looks like they were trying to do the characters or do the story and they were earnest about it. But when it's clearly
It really goes back
we don't
to
care
like
about
movie
we don't care
serials,
about the
doesn't
characters
it?
of the
Even
story.
though it was take the material serious, kind of like Adam West. They were playing it for camp, but he played it serious to sell you on it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you see
Yeah. As long as you take the material, no matter how far-fetched it is, if you take it serious, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, you see some of the stuff like, you know, Mystery Science Theater type movies or just some of the movies you might find on Tubi or something like that. They're not necessarily objectively good movies, but they don't piss me off.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear that people are trying and they were trying to, you know, tell this story. That's why, you know, the people joke about the first Fantastic Four movie, the one that never got released, one with David Ogden Stiers in it.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, in a lot of ways, that was better.
I mean, that's
like
probably
the
better than some of the
mentioned.
that movie was probably better than some of the Fantastic Four movies
Yeah.
they actually did release. Because at least they were trying.
Yeah, yeah. The Doctor Doom suit looked good. I like the Thing outfit. They kind of went off the rails with the Tinkerer.
Yeah.
I didn't much like that part of the movie.
Yeah, but
You know.
I mean, they were trying to do the subject matter of their movie justice. You know, they weren't.
Yeah.
We're just gonna use that as the name of the movie, and we don't really care about how the actual characters in the books are portrayed. We don't care about how the storylines in the books just doesn't make sense given other things that readers would have, people coming in would anticipate. You know, we're going to change things that worked in the comic book, and we're going to make them so that it doesn't make sense. I mean, I don't know. I can handle. We're trying to do this movie. We're just not capable. As opposed to, oh, we're fully capable of doing the movie, but we're not going to do that movie. We're going to do this other movie, and call it this.
Well, even in the heyday of Marvel's movies, I felt like they'd never done a Fantastic Four movie justice. They've never done the Incredible Hulk justice. Do I enjoy the movies they came out with? Yes, I do. But they're not what they could be. I mean, Fantastic Four was the first family of comic books. It was Stan and Jack's baby for like 100 issues. and it could be the greatest comic magazine again if they did a great retro story. I think that's why a lot of people have high hopes for this new Fantastic Four movie, because it's going to be set in the 60s, at least start out
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah,
I
but
hope
I
so.
mean,
That was the
why?
space race era.
We're back to, why not take the most popular Fantastic Four stories, or story, start with a story,
Mm-hmm.
of all time. The comic book readers are like, if you did a poll, what's the best Fantastic Four story ever written? And do a movie that followed that story. That's the screenplay for the movie.
Yeah.
Instead of making up a new story. You've got one that
Yeah.
that people have said, this is a good story, let's see this on screen. And they won't do it.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the Dark Phoenix thing, that they built up to that in the X-Men for like 2 years. It is that block of like Claremont, Byrne, and Austin books are some of the best in superhero genre that's ever been produced. But if they do that, it's X-Men 3. It's truncated into one movie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't get the same.
No,
There's no way you can, because they 2-year build up.
Well, but that's in a sense, that's kind of what they did right with the Avengers movies. Is
Yeah.
they built through several movies to get to Infinity Wars and Endgame.
Endgame.
Yeah,
And
they
Infinity
built
War,
it.
yeah.
They built it through several movies, which is what comic books do. They build up. It's not like there's no
Yeah,
fights
that's
happen.
what they should be doing,
issue
is
1
building
and
on
2 and 3. Oh, and here's they've been kind of hinting at this stuff all along, and then it finally happens, and that's probably how they should be doing it, because you can still tell an entertaining action adventure movie, but hint at potential sequels, or misdirect, or send things so that the next movie things happen and you're like, oh, they kind of signaled that back in the first movie or whatever. That's what comic books do. So.
Well, I mean, fan base stuff. You're seeing a lot of fan base movies, Star Trek stuff. That's better than what Hollywood is coming out with. In certain cases.
Yeah, but
if you make it I think there's a really, if you give the fans what they want, it can even be controversial. I know when The Passion of the Christ came out, it was controversial, but that opened up that opened some eyes that, whoa, and now, 20 years, well, I mean, they're doing Passion 2 Resurrection way after, and they're even coming out with a Braveheart 2, which I don't think really they need, which kind of focus on.
Well, they got Gladiator 2. They got Gladiator 2. They got
Yeah, but that's all we're seeing is sequels and rewrites and stuff. Remakes. It's pitiful.
Yeah, I mean, but there's always movies that are controversial,
I don't
and
think
then
that should ever be remade. Really.
Well, I agree. I mean,
like Wizard of Oz or Gone with the Wind. Why would you want to remake that? Or Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, or It's a Wonderful Life? I'm sorry. If you want to do some piss poor knockoff of it, but that's all you're going to wind up with.
Well, that's so many of the things that are made now are just knockoffs of what came before. I mean, there aren't very many original ideas out there. Mm-hmm. I think it's just easier for them to pitch. Well, it'll be like the sequel to Wizard of Oz or whatever. You know, it's like, well, Frank Baum wrote more Wizard of Oz book. I mean, there's a whole series of books you could
Oh
you
yeah.
could do another one of the books. You don't have to do the same one over and over and over again, or the same story
Exactly.
over and over again.
Homer Glitz, that's been out in the chat, sent a character I created that he kind of put his own spin on here. The Mighty Battle Brick. Finished.
Ah,
That's off Eric Weathers. Kind of a takeoff.
Battle
of his
Brick Road. Yeah,
You know.
yeah, I've got a copy of that.
Yeah. Except he's the Mighty Battle Brick. You know.
Yeah. Well, hey.
Well, Paul, Braveheart 2. Nah, it's unnecessary. That's the way I look at that. It's unnecessary. You know, Braveheart was. I mean, think about that. That was a 1985 movie, I think. 85, 86. It was, and look how long it's been. It's nearly 40 years.
But it's.
And
I mean, the thing
doing
is,
another
it's
one, you know?
it's very cynical because they could do a movie that's exactly what they make. You know, they can do a movie that's exactly what they.
Mhm.
But they use the name of another movie to try to get people who like that movie to come see it. It's just a way of like guaranteeing that certain people will show up, a certain number of people will show up to the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, let me get you to get your final pitch in. Glenn Fleming in the house. Hey, Glenn. Saying, Rex, Paul, I've got a company Christmas party to go to. So we've got a few more minutes. Is there something you want to kind of pitch as far as your book over on Indie Planet, 48th and Gone, or
yeah, 46
stuff?
46 and Gone.
Final thought.
Is a pulp detective story. There's some time travel in it. It's got pirates. It's got evil magicians. It's got comely women. So
Yeah.
it's
It's a Paul MONSKY
yeah
project if it has comely women in it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Tantalizing Adventures is still up on Fund My Comic. And I've got this
And it
superheroine
needs to get
project.
funded, folks.
I got this superheroine project on the way. I'm probably going to do it as 3 issues on Indie Planet, and then I'll collect it up and maybe try to crowdfund.
That's looking pretty good. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I got a lot of stuff coming up.
Is there any reason you're kind of going? These projects are complete. You're like, I'll just shoot it over to Indie Planet. Is there any reason you're kind of going up to Indie Planet? Because that's immediate. Well, that's print on demand, isn't it?
It's print on demand. I mean, people who order it can get it right away.
Mm-hmm.
Basically,
Yeah.
I feel like crowdfunding for a 24 to 32 page book is not really. It doesn't really justify crowdfunding it. I mean, people.
Right.
It's a $5 book, or $6 maybe, I mean, so it's not.
Yeah.
By the time people pay shipping on a $6 book, they pay. They're paying $16 or whatever for a $6 book. It just, I don't see that as something you need to crowd.
For a floppy. Right.
So for a floppy, I can't see crowdfunding a floppy.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm putting, putting the book together, and I got 32 pages, and I'm like, well, let's put it out as a floppy, and then I'll collect up all the floppies into a nice package, and nice cover, maybe
like
embossed
like
cover,
a trade paperback.
Yeah, exactly. And that now you've got a book, and so now you put it out a book on crowdfunding. So that's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I mean, Tantalizing Adventures is
that's
92
probably
pages.
pretty smart. Yeah.
So
Oh,
I'm
92 pages. Wow.
yeah, Tantalizing
Yeah.
Adventures,
That's
92 pages. The superhero book's going to be between
4
90 and
stories,
100
right?
pages. 5 stories. I mean, it's all the same character.
Oh, 5
And
stories.
it's
Okay.
5 stories,
So,
all the same character, all written by me. All the artwork is good. So, it's good girl art, same writer, same character. It's it's 5 stories, but it could be a single story. Just if you broke it up into different comic book issues, it would be like, oh, and then this happened, and oh, and then this happened, and oh, and then this happened. I mean, so it's not a typical anthology where it's different writers, different artists, different characters. It's not like that, but it's 5 stories, same character, lots of jungle action and adventure for Tantalizing Adventures. So.
well, Paul, I'm
Yep.
sorry we couldn't get Shadowhawk in here. I don't know what the technical difficulty was, but I think
Like I
apologize
said,
for
the first link you sent
bad
me,
start there.
the first link you sent me just had StreamYard.com. It didn't have the JYVN blah 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 stuff on it. So.
Isn't that wild? I don't know. Maybe they're having technical issues, but we got you in here.
Yep.
Sorry to have to cut it short, but yeah, 6 o'clock. All I can eat. I haven't eaten much yesterday or today. I'm gonna take them for all they're worth. But Paul, I feel like we just scratched the surface. So, don't be a stranger. Come back here fairly soon.
I'm happy
I'd like
to
talk to you some more, man. It's always great to talk with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy
let's
to
set something up. Thank you for getting
Okay.
this up. I had a gap. I had somebody on the last. Actually, been a kind of a busy week. Randy Zimmerman had Texas Dave on Tuesday. Had Randy Zimmerman on Wednesday, and Ronin Entertainment yesterday, and I had Friday open. So you fit the bill. And tomorrow we got Godfo on. So it's been a full week of interviews. But a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I will, Carrie. I'll eat something for you. Say the magic words, right, Paul, and we'll get out of here. Keep collecting.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Apex. Thank you, Omar Glitch. I can see your comments. I'm just not in the chat to do it. So, all right. Y'all have a good one.
All right. He's not going to say it, folks, so I'll say it. Keep collecting.